Welcome back to the Construction Mentor Podcast. My name is Ike. I am your host. You can follow me on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube at the Construction Mentor. You can listen to this podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube. I think that's it. Today, I want to get back into more trade talk. Love going through the interview format. I know a lot of people do because people like hearing about different life experiences and different trades and different opportunities. A lot of career opportunities that people normally wouldn't think of. So today I have a different trade in here that I don't think a lot of people think about when they think about opportunities in construction, although they should, right? And that would be setting tile. So I have Adam Mills from Mills Tile out in Tahoe, right?
Yeah, Reno. Yeah, the Reno Tahoe area. So Nevada and California, licensed in both states. Basically specializing in all the higher end homes, all custom tile work. So a lot of skill into this.
Go check out his stuff. I mean, first of all, when he says high end, we're talking high end. Like when you think about like a really, really nice home, like a ski home or a lake house, behind these houses are some really incredible views, but Adam's work is very, very high end. So with that, as I said, most people, when they think about careers in construction, they think about, you hear a lot about electrical work, you hear a lot about plumbing work, even some carpentry and stuff like that. Not a lot of people talk about the opportunity to be a tile setter, right? So before we get into your background and your history, why don't we talk, what do tile setters make in the field, management opportunities? And then I want to take it to your business and what you've been able to build in that relatively small market. Can be like you're not in a major city, right? You're in the Reno Tahoe area, which is really a niche market.
Yes, I mean we're about 4 hours from the Bay Area, so you got a lot of people from San Francisco that own second, third homes here, but also people from all around the world. As far as like wages go. Due to the living environments here, we do have to pay, not have to, but we charge a lot, we pay a lot. Guys are making anywhere from like 60,000 all the way up to six figures a year with full benefits, depending on where they're at in the company, their leadership roles.
What kind of roles are there? Like, are we talking foreman, project manager? Is there a difference in the compensation there?
Yeah, so we got lead installers who are like on the site installing the tile, doing that. They're and then you got the project manager. He's basically overseeing every job, making sure everybody's tasks are being done correctly on time, and he deals with scheduling and all that stuff. That's definitely a higher paid wage due to the skill set that he must have, knowing every fine detail and what's going on with every job. Estimator who goes through all the blueprints, everything, doing everything off the computer to keep the jobs coming and going. Pricing out the tile when we buy tile for the projects as well. That is a great paying wage.
And do you have a progression plan for you guys to go from in the field to your kind of ace starting pitcher, crew leader, to maybe if they wanted to go to an estimator or a project management position?
So yes, and so yes. One of the guys, he was an installer here for a while. He wanted to be a project manager. He had the skill set to do it, and that was the reason why I brought him on was this role. However, he wanted to get his some time under his belt installing here, feeling out the crew, all that stuff, because a lot of the times when you bring on new guys and you put them into a role that some guys will like, why does that guy get to do this, get to do that type deal? So sometimes putting them on that same playing field so the other teammates can recognize that, hey, this guy knows his stuff. He can do everything just like us, if not better. He knows the book inside and out on proper techniques. He's been able to show majority of all my tile setters right ways and wrong ways, because everybody thinks there's definitely a right way and a wrong way on how to set tile correctly. Mm-hmm. And no matter how long you've been in it, a lot of guys think, oh, this is the right way. And that project management position, helps these guys make their life easier. And numerous times now they'll come back to him and been like, hey, wow, you just made my life so much easier. I was skeptical at first, but wow, this is, so certain people have that mentality. Then there's a lot of the guys though, they just want to go to work and they just want to, get after it. And that's it. They don't want to deal with the behind the scenes stuff that I deal with, also that my project manager deals with, and then also my estimator deals with. So obviously we have helpers.
So that's your entry level. Like you get somebody, kid wants a job, because most people don't set out again to start and tile. And we're going to hear that in your story in a second, right? You kind of fall into it. So if somebody's out there and they don't know what they want to do, but they're looking for a job, helper would be the entry level, which you're just looking for somebody with a good work ethic that answers the questions, right? A clean cut looking person.
Exactly. And we'll go through a lot of those because we try them out when they're young, and it's not like I like to leave it up to them. Like I don't like, sometimes it's just not for them, you know what I mean? And it doesn't work out.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we start them off at that entry level, but it takes some time before they can become a setter, but they work hand in hand with like a setter that's teaching them also along the way.
And as you said, I don't think a lot of people realize that. I'd say more often than not, a lot of the people that come in don't want to have that management role. They, especially once they experience the industry, because then they find out what all the headaches are about, and they want to be that, neck down. I just want to show up. I want to do my job. I want to do it well. I want to make a good wage, and I want to go home. So
Correct.
for your experienced journeyman, you don't have to give me like the exact rate, but what is a competitive hourly rate or salary for a tile setter? Not somebody that's looking to go into the office, but like a crew leader or a foreman or like your ace in the hole tile guy.
Like 35 to 42 an hour.
35 to 42 an hour is pretty good, considering you're not number one in a major market. One of the most common comments that I get is, "Oh yeah, you make that in the big cities, but you can't make $70,000 to $84,000 on regular time."
Yeah.
Where I'm at, and it's like, okay, well, you can in the Reno Tahoe area, right? Yep. And that's not a big market. So those are very, very competitive salaries, and I would say that that's even higher than the average of what you'd see online. So from there, you have your people in the office who would go to more of like a salary based. And what's a competitive for? I know that very niche market, right? So there's not a ton of competition out there. What would a competitive project management salary be for somebody that was a PM for or an estimator for, a tile guy like you in your market?
You're $80,000 to $100,000.
Any other benefits outside of that?
So this goes for all employees, but full healthcare, health insurance, and vision insurance. Do matching 401k plan. We also do a lot of the guys, like the lead guys, have gas card, like company gas card and stuff. So I'm paying gas on that. So that, you take them having to pay for all their gas, we're $4 or $5 a gallon out here. That's a lot of extra money that's going in their pocket for not having to spend their own money to get to work. Because a lot of the guys, basically it's like, you look at it, you're working one day free just to go work for the 4 days to get your 5 days.
And I think you said you have some trucks, right?
Yeah, so we have 8 company trucks. All the lead guys have them, and then obviously we got other work truck like flatbed stuff like that for delivering stuff that stays down here.
Now for Mills Tile, one of the things that I always hear from young people is that they want to be entrepreneurs, right? And I'll go into a classroom and I'll say, hey, how many kids want to be, entrepreneurs? And if there's 30 kids, 28 will raise their hand. It's like, okay, well, what do you want to do? What are you selling me? What can you do?
Yep.
And they got no skill, right? So they might look down on construction or even somebody that specifically sets tile, but that's a skill where you can build a business. So correct. You are an entrepreneur. You are a business owner who found a niche skill. And what type of revenue are you looking at in your market for Mills Tile per year?
3.5 to 4 million a year.
Yeah. So $3.5 to $4 million on this skill that everybody's overlooking and that nobody really thinks about. Nobody, at least under the age of 25, thinks about, when they're sitting there in school. So I can't tell you enough how impressed I am by like the portfolio that you have, what you've been able to build, especially, with the story and the things that you've overcome. So I'd like to get into that.
Yeah.
Talk about, because, if you guys are listening to this, I think Adam started off the way a lot of us start off, right? Not sure what we want to do. Was a fun guy. It definitely was looking to marry to that lifestyle, realized that he had to get somewhere. And then a few weeks ago, I posted an episode about, the struggles with addiction that people have in this industry with alcoholism and drugs. Adam has a really incredible story, whether you've battled that or not. We all know somebody that has. And I really think that everybody can benefit from the story that you're about to hear. So, keep listening. I think your jaw will be on the floor a few times when you hear Adam's story. And like I said, I think everybody can listen to it, and it's really inspiring. So, if everybody knows what a ski bum is, that's basically what you want it to be, right? Or a snowboarding bum.
Correct. So originally I'm from Pennsylvania on the East Coast. I got into snowboarding like high school days. Loved it. Thought college though was the mandatory thing to do. I guess, what else is there to really do? So tried out college. I remember calling my dad and saying, "Hey, this school stuff's not for me." The only thing I knew how to really do was snowboard because that was fun. I really had no intentions on. I never thought at that young age of like, what do you want to be when I grow up? So, I tried the college thing out did about a couple semesters, failed. My dad let me move to Colorado. And I had some friends that were sort of doing the same thing, met friends out there. I couch surfed until I had got a job, could pay some rent and just lived basically paycheck to paycheck. Picked up some sponsors in the snowboard community. The whole life was focused around snowboarding, and the lifestyle that goes with it was partying on the weekends.
And I think you said in high school you had some summer jobs with some roofing and stuff like that too, right? Yeah. So you got a little exposure to getting your hands dirty.
Ever since I was old enough to work, I worked. I worked at McDonald's. I delivered newspapers. I worked on a roof, roofing for a roofing company, and you name it, I did it. Whatever I could do to have a little bit of money in my pocket to do the fun things is what I did.
Right. I think if, when you tell me that story, I have a lot of friends that, the drive around the country and live in a van. Yep. Lifestyle kind of like appeals to them. Right. And when I hear a lot of people telling high school kids, go find yourself, go to college and find yourself. But what I also have seen with people that, have been down the road and around the block a couple times are that the people that let that happen late, especially without picking up any skills, because you were at least getting exposure to some jobs, and that ended up being your fallback, some of the skilled trade work that you had exposure to, they regret kind of floating out there in the ether for a long time, because although you weren't maybe in student debt or anything like that, at one point you felt like you wasted a significant amount of time, right?
Yeah, no, totally. I mean, you start getting a little bit older and it's like, you need a job. And when I was in Colorado, I was fortunate enough to I wasn't taking it serious to where I was just going to a temp agency, and it was like for construction jobs. So in the summer times, I was being sent out like anywhere from landscaping to painting to cleaning up trash to you name it. Well, anyway, one summer I got put on with a tile company, and it was just a husband and wife out of South Park, California, and they liked
not like the TV show.
Not like the TV show, but that's where they actually loved that TV show. I do remember them.
I'm sure they do.
But they sort of gave me my first introduction to tile. I had no idea what tile was at this time.
So you fell into it, just like we said. I mean,
just like by a whim, yeah. And and a lot of these temp agencies, like if you work for a company that picks you up in the morning, a lot of times they'll ask you if you want to keep that job and come back regularly. I liked it, and I ended up taking them on for that. So every summer I would work for them, and then I would snowboard in the winter. But then that job continued to be, I would do that more even through the winter time, because can't remember what I was getting paid, but at that time I was able to buy myself a Jeep, my first vehicle on my own. I was paying my own rent. Those things were nice to me. And then long story short, from there, moved to Lake Tahoe, kept up with the snowboarding thing. But all I knew how to do that could make money was if I wanted to stay in construction, was tile, or the fallback type deal is like, well, I've waited tables and done stuff like that too to pick up some cash. It's like, well, I'm a grown man. I want to do something with my hands. I want to be useful. So I reached out to a bunch of tile companies in the Lake Tahoe area and picked up a really nice.
So you just highlighted something very, very important.
What's that?
Your skill, right?
Yes.
That you were able to pick up just by going to all these odd jobs and everything like that.
Yes.
Enabled you to have the freedom to move wherever you wanted, right? You were at least able to go to that market and say, I know how to set tile. Yes. Right. And then you
go on. And speaking of that, that's one thing I tell my guys all the time. I'm like, I want to teach you a trade. Even if this doesn't work out for you, if you got the basics, you can take this and go anywhere in life, move anywhere across the country, and you can have something to bring to the table of some knowledge of something. That's how I always look at it. That's how I treat all my employees, because no one can teach you that type of skill set other than, like, I don't believe, like, other hands-on in the field.
And they can't take it away from you, right?
No.
Like, one of the people in history, I'm a big history guy, right? Over my shoulder, you see a couple pictures of Frederick Douglass.
Yep.
What a lot of people don't know is how he felt about the trades. He had a trade. He was a caulker in a shipyard, right? And he spoke about that. He said, I'm going to paraphrase, but escaping slavery wasn't what gave him his freedom. His trade gave him his freedom, because he was able to move from Massachusetts, New York to Massachusetts, to Rochester, New York, back to Massachusetts. No matter where he went, he was able to offer his skills to people and create wealth for himself. So it's a different kind of freedom, right? So this is where the story really is about to pick up, right? So you were doing, basically you were working as much as you had to support that lifestyle. Reality slapped you in the face in 2010. Yeah. So you were stabbed.
Yes. So
right, talk about that.
So I took some time. I went down to LA, hung out with a real good childhood friend of mine. Just partying, doing really nothing. Eventful. I ended up getting stabbed 5 times by a person that was on PCP, multiple drugs. I was buzzed. I was drunk. I didn't take any drugs that night for some reason. He woke me up while I was in my bed sleeping. I had to fight him off to get out of the place, and jumped off a 2nd-story balcony where I broke my leg, tore my meniscus. I mean, he slit my throat. My hands were all cut up, a couple in the chest. Anyway, finally got away from him. The other person in the house called 911. I was immediately rushed to the ER, where I spent 7 days in the ICU in Southern California.
Now, I think a lot of people would immediately say, well, you didn't do anything right to provoke that. You were sleeping and then you were attacked, but and maybe you did do something to provoke it. But I think the point, you felt terrible about that, right? Because when your family had heard about that, you told me that that was a reflection basically of the lifestyle you were living and who you were surrounding yourself with, right?
Yeah. So I was, looking back on it, I was so ashamed of me and how I got myself into that position. It felt like everything I've done in my point of my life led up to that point. And I didn't want to call my mom. I didn't want to call my dad. So I called one of my sisters at first. And I remember to this day, you're such a disappointment. And that really hit home right there. Because I was like, man, I thought maybe they would help understand, but that flashed to me like, you're sort of right. I am a disappointment to myself. I've just been running carelessly for 20 plus years, 30 years, just reckless, place to place, moving, just enjoying fun, and no idea what I'm going to do with the rest of my life. Well, while they're all back there getting their families together, their careers, graduating from college, all that stuff. While I'm the oldest of 5 who sort of just went out and winged it. And that really hit home that you're a disappointment. from then on, I had to stay out there before I could. I had to do a lot of rehab out there before I could get on an airplane and fly back home. And then I ended up living with.
I think you said it kind of defined you, right? Like, and I think a lot of people do that. They let one traumatic experience become either their excuse to enable or not to move forward. I think you see that in Big Daddy. I think that's like one of the underlying things in Big Daddy when the taxi runs over his foot and he uses that as an excuse not to finish law school.
Yep.
Obviously, getting stabbed in the neck is worse than that, right?
Yes.
But you let it define you for a little while, right?
Yeah. So it was very traumatic, and it put me in a place where when I was back home living with my parents, of like, I got to figure my life out, like, and that's when I started to make these changes. However, I had a drink. I wouldn't say, yeah, I drank a lot, and I don't think people knew how much that I was even drinking then, but I was able to get myself back up on my feet, move out of my parents' house after maybe a year and a half, because I had to continue physical therapy back there too on my knee. And then when I was finally able to get up and going, I moved back out west. That's when I put my head down, worked on getting my contractor's license, but I still was snowboard bum mentality, having fun, but need to make money, but I want to get my license. So started doing all that stuff, got my license, started making money, drinking. I never thought about becoming sober, I guess. I met my wife that I have now in the snowboarding world when I moved out to Tahoe. We were like best friends before we started really dating. We've been married since 2017. We have a beautiful 5-year-old boy.
Now, and at that point, you said people didn't realize how much you were drinking, but it wasn't like you were drinking during the day or in the morning. It was really just the standard construction guy, Thursday through Sunday, just like I used to do, maybe even on a Wednesday or something after work.
Yeah.
But nothing out of the normal for
a good time guy.
Yeah,
your afternoon beer, like after work beers and stuff like that. And then definitely your weekend, you work hard, you play hard type deal on the weekends. And then when I picked up when I finally went out on my own, and
can you talk about that opportunity when you decided what that looked like? Because you were working for somebody, you were going the 40 hours a week, you were mastering the craft, right? And then you had your license, which, just for anybody who doesn't know, all contractors in Nevada and California have to get licensed, right? So, what did that opportunity look like, and when did you make that jump?
This company that I was working for, I was like their lead installer at the time. He was doing a lot of the custom homes where we work at, and for some reason, I felt like we might not be getting this much work anymore, due to maybe how he carried himself or how his business model was being ran. And I, was recently licensed. I knew some of the project managers and superintendents on these jobs, and I basically, gave a couple guys my business cards and asked for an opportunity. They looked at me basically like, well, do you not have the manpower, but are you even set up to even do this? And I was like, well, you just got to give me a chance. I won't know unless you give me a chance. Right. So they gave me I've ended up landing a nice house, and then another house, and I was working. I was doing all the install. I'd hire a friend here and there to help me do it. And my eyes were so open to where, like, now I got to hire employees, because you can't run this bit. I can't run a business like how these big GCs want it done, where the owner's on the ground all day doing all the physical work. You need to be running the business end. And that I was also seeing from the past employer that I was working for. He was always micromanaging on-site type deal like that, where he had no time for the business part. So that was all getting clogged up.
You see that all the time.
Yeah.
You see that all the time. And just, I do want to highlight when we're talking about a license, and your potential client that you had approached, when they talk about you being ready, I mean, to get that license, you need a certain amount of money to bid jobs. You need to meet bond limits. Basically, you know, it's an insurance that if you go under, that an insurance company will pick up the bill for somebody else to finish the job. You know, trade exams, legal exams, all these things, right? So you were prepared to get lucky. That's what I like to say, right?
Yes.
You were prepared for an opportunity to get lucky by having that license, and you did.
Yes.
Right. So that client that gave you a shot, you do a significant amount of work for them today, right? So out of that 3.5-ish million, how much is that? How many eggs are in their basket?
They're about probably 1 to 1.5 million of our, and I've been
awesome.
still to this day. The two guys that gave me my first job for them are still working there, and we have a great relationship. I'd like to say we do about 90% of all their tile work, and they're one of the biggest GCs in the whole area up here. They really helped me out, get me off my feet. Now, if you want to go back into the drinking stuff, this is where.
Before we move on to that, I do just want to highlight, you know, you do have like 10-ish other GCs,
yes,
or so that you work for. So you do have eggs in a lot of baskets. I think that one thing that I talk to people about, young people, especially when they start a business, is, I mean, we all have our go-to people that give us a lot of work, right? You got to be diverse a little bit, just in case those people go away, just in case, you know, poof, they're gone. Yep. In both directions too, right? Like you need different suppliers. You can't be totally reliant on certain workforces. The more you diversify in each direction, you know, the better that you're going to set yourself up. So I think you've done a really good job at that. I just wanted to highlight it. So, you know, then you get to the point, and we've been kind of leading into it. So getting stabbed in the neck isn't the most profound part of the story to me, believe it or not, which is nuts. But, you know, the drinking, obviously, we've been building up a crescendo, right? And it became something outside of the after work beers or the weekend. What did that look like? And how did it come to a head?
It was like numbing the pain from like the PTSD, and then also starting on my own. It was numbing the stress of, because I didn't, like, as you said, like I didn't go to college. I didn't have any. I'm shooting from the hip on this entrepreneur idea that I have in my head and learning as I go. Like my father wasn't in construction. So I had no one to, like, I was reaching out and asking questions to project managers I was working for, like even pricing wise, because I didn't know how to even bid this stuff. I didn't even know what you could get. So, you know, some of these guys in the very beginning were sort of giving me like a budget number and stuff. And I was like, what? I was blown away on some of these numbers, but they really were looking out for me. They wanted to see me succeed. But yeah, that drinking was numbing all the stresses that were going into it. And if you're not familiar with construction, it's not like you get paid every Friday. So I go from getting a paycheck like every Friday from where I'm working to now you bill, you don't get paid for like 30 days. Some companies are 60 days. It can go all the way up to 90 days.
Commercial. Yeah. And I don't think that a lot of people in my seat as a GC remember that, right? It's like you're a $3 to $4 million company with 15 guys. You got to make payroll. The difference between another 30 days for a lot of guys could mean them closing their doors. You know, and if you're an owner or an owner's rep and you can offer a quick pay, there's no better way to keep your job going and keep people on site.
Yeah, all our jobs now, like, I mean, we're all 30 days minimum and then 45 days minimum. And then when I was at my, like, the highest of employees, you know, I'm putting out $33,000 a week in payroll taxes. That's not counting insurances and stuff like that. I mean, that's a lot of money every week going out the door. I mean, it sounds like, hey, a $30,000 check comes in the mail. Sounds like a ton of money. Well, that just covers the guy's week of payroll. So that's starting out though. Granted,
and that's a huge stressor. I mean, so imagine like having that on your head, and you know there's one thing that'll make you feel good, right? Yep. So that's when the drinking started creeping in during the day.
Yeah, a lot. It crept in during the daytime. It took over to where it was like a morning routine. I was hiding it from everybody. My employees didn't know. My wife didn't know at that time how bad it was. Vodka.
So what's the way you'd hide it? I told you I've seen a lot of guys do this.
So when you get home, you hit the fridge, you crack a couple beers, watch the game or whatever, just so you already got that alcohol on your breath. So I just had some beers, and then when the wife wasn't looking or whatever, slip to the garage or whatever, have another sip of vodka. But I always had a bottle in the truck. Don't recommend that to anybody. I'm just lucky. No. I'm lucky to be alive. I'm very blessed on all the things that I've been given the opportunity of, and I almost threw all that away because of that. And there was a time, I can jump into this now if you'd like.
Go for it.
I basically threw myself intervention. My son was already almost 1 year old at the time. I remember I even, I drank when he was born at the hospital. Just bad. Anyway, there was a night I never came home. We keep our camper out at campground in the summertime, and would spend the weekends out there, enjoy as a family. I have a good buddy out there that I have to go fishing with. It is easy to, drink on the weekends. That's all good. No, it's easy to hide that. It's like, whatever. Well, anyway, I didn't come home, come back out to the campground this one night, and I got a ton of missed calls from my wife, and I'm finally call her back in the morning, and I'm heading out there, and I'm just broken down in tears, and I don't know what to do. And I tell her to go over to my good friend's house and his wife's house in this town, as I need to tell her something that I'm really struggling with. And I feel like at this point she probably knows. I feel like definitely knows. But for me to have not just me to tell her personally by myself, I need to hold myself so accountable that I had to bring myself to the ultimate rock bottom, that I had to do it in front of one of my very good friends, his wife, and sort of just not, I guess, make a scene, but just hold me so accountable to, like, I have a problem. I get to the house, and I just come full clean, river of tears are coming out of my eyes. I'm just, saying everything that I've been hiding, that's just was weighing me down for so long.
How did your wife take that at that point?
Not very happy. I think she hit me a couple times. She cried. We all cried.
Now, do you think it was a good idea in retrospect to have your friends there just as a mediation?
Yeah. I mean, maybe it was embarrassing for her at that time. I don't think but I think in my mind, that was the only way I needed to just, other people needed to be there. Like for that, not only to support me, but I think to support her as well in that point. So what happened was she stayed with my friend's wife. He drove me back to the campground where our trailer was. I stayed there. She came out. I was detoxing pretty hard that evening. I remember having to get up and going outside and throwing up and all this stuff when I probably should have immediately went and checked in someplace. It was pretty bad. So we talked about the rehab and stuff. We jump into the whole work situation. I'm like, man, my life is over. All this stuff I worked very hard for, that I went to bat for to get this business going, is now just gone. Basically, in my mind, I have no one's going to respect me. No one's going to believe anything I say. If I'm going to go away to rehab. My job's not going to be here when I get back. They move on. It's business. I understand how business goes. People come, people go. So me and my wife talked about what kind of rehab I was going to be going to. I didn't do the 30-day one where I went away, but I did go do a couple week one that was in town where she got to come see me. And then after that, I did an outpatient for a few years, 2-3 times a week, which I really enjoyed. It wasn't AA, but it was an outpatient where you'd go.
And you've actually never been to AA?
I've never been to AA.
That's interesting. That's really interesting for a lot of people to hear.
I really enjoyed this. It was like a behavioral place where I saw all walks. I'm sure AA has it too, but all walks of life. And you weren't, I guess in my mind, I thought AA was like guys everyone in a circle raising their hand going, hey, I'm an alcoholic, blah, blah, blah. And I don't know, in my mind at that time, I thought that was corny, but what I was getting from what I did in the inpatient, when I was in there, I was taken very seriously, and they held these classes and stuff, and I was paying attention and I was doing it. My mind was just like, boom, I hit the bottom. I got to win my family back. I got to win my career back. I got to win everything back. So I took it dead serious. But let's go before I went into there. And I'd like to talk, like, just hit on how I was so scared about losing the career and all this stuff, as well as the family, that I sat down and emailed all the companies that I was doing. I sat down and I needed to email, and I didn't, because I'm going to go into rehab. And I'm like, well, I can't just disappear. The phone rings. Everybody in construction, you're a business owner, your phone rings nonstop. Emails. I'm sitting here, I got emails are popping off left and right. That's just the nature of it. So my only thing was, well, you know what? I got to come clean here. I got to tell the GCs, the project managers that I'm on jobs with, that I am going to be taking a leave of absence. And I was told the bitter truth. I was like, listen, I've had a drinking problem, and it needs to be addressed right away. I'm going to be gone from such and such time. If you need to get a hold of, my company's going to keep working, but these are the people that are in line that you need to talk to if it's important. Either my bookkeeper at the time, my lead foreman at the time, and then also my wife could help explain more. And after this, I'm sending this email, tears, just like, it's over. No one's going to respect this stuff. This is, but that was like my holding on by a thread wish of just, this is all I got, and say a prayer. And, hopefully, because I don't know if for anybody that's gone in anywhere, you don't have access to the phone. It's gone. And you just, I got to see my wife once a week. You don't know what's going on out there. And that's a big stress part too. Anyway, after getting out, I was shocked how many people reached out to me privately that I messaged and were like, wow, man, that's like the most bravest, badass, boldest thing I've ever seen anyone do in my entire life. I cannot believe. I mean, I wish I could go back and see that email, because I'm sure it wasn't just a quick, it was probably a heart jerker for everybody the way I wrote it. I'm sure just holding on by the thread. And throughout that, I was been able to help a few people as well that I was shocked about, that reached out to me asking, where did I go? How did I do this? How did I get the courage? And it wasn't even about the courage. It was like, you have to find that, you have to hit the bottom of the bottom, as they say. You're not going to change unless you really want to. For me, it was getting to that point of, like, taking it to the point of, like, I'm going to lose everything. And my family, I have a 1-year-old boy, a career that is, like, on the outside looks amazing. I'm one of the youngest owners of a company working on the most prestigious homes. And all that was just going to be thrown away to a problem that I couldn't handle on my own. But the amount of support that I had from everybody and other people that I've been able to help out along this journey has been more rewarding, I would say, to me than any job that I've probably ever done. I've had employees that I've been able to help out, and I get more joy out of that than a big paycheck coming in. Something like, I go to bat for a lot of, for a person that's been there. And I know people talk to people a lot like, hey, I understand, but I don't think if you haven't been there, that other person doesn't, like, you can't relate to them. Like, they don't want to believe you. And I'm very open about what I've gone through, especially with the people that I've seen struggle, because they coming from someone that's been in that such area, they can relate better. I've taken guys to church. I've been like, hey, I'm picking you up and we're going to church. Be there, picking you up. We're doing something like that. We're going to get you out of your routine on the weekend. I got guys that are sober now. I wouldn't say it's because of me, but I would hope that it's a glimmer of light that I've casted into their life as a better, was what they can see their potential at being. And I think when you see that and have someone stand behind you and support you like that, you can do anything.
It's interesting that you just used that analogy, because it's one that I use. When you were in a situation, you're looking at it and your back's against the wall, I think a lot of people have a tough time taking the necessary steps to make their life better, right? For whatever reason, they feel like they're either in too deep, they can't back out, it'll affect their life in a negative way. And you were in a situation where it was like, my true intent to serve my greatest purpose, I have to act intentionally, and regardless of what happens to me, I have to face this risk. And if it means me losing my business, so be it, because this is the right thing to do. And you took that leap of faith, and it sounds like church may or may not have played into it, but as long as you're acting with the right intentions, it'll always work out. You know what I mean? And when you said that about light, I always say when you're serving a greater purpose outside of yourself, you're letting that light inside of you shine. That does a few things. Number one, it gets the darkness out of your own light. It gets the darkness out of your own life. It allows other people to see you shining, right? So it'll present opportunity. But then there's other people that need that light, right? They're looking for light in their own life. And when yours is shining so bright, just like yours were, you don't know who's going to need that. And I just think it's crazy how many people reached out to you and how you've been able to positively affect other people.
And the people, and it's even like my wife, a lot, there's, friends of hers or friends that we know, like their wives will reach out to her asking, where did I go? How did I do this? Because alcohol is a major problem across the entire country, the world, especially construction. Sure. And a lot of wives are, battling the same thing with their husbands and their drinking. So not only I've been able to help people I've never met, I've been able to help people that I'm close with. I'm not one that's going to tell you what to do. You got to do it yourself, obviously. But I think the hardest thing for people, it's embarrassment. Like no one wants to admit they have a problem because it's embarrassing. You're supposed to live up to this type of thing. You're supposed to be like a man. And that's very hard, but to see powerful, strong men reach out to me for guidance and things like that is just like, not once looking back, you go from it's all gone to, wow, I'm helping people.
Yeah, you have a following.
This is going the complete opposite way that I thought it was going to go.
I think the misconception of being a man, it's like, for me, being a man is taking responsibility for yourself, for other people. That includes your failures and finding a way to push forward in a way that is being a leader, being an example for other people. Like that's what being a man is. Your path that you took is what being a man is, not bottling it up, holding it inside, and then just crumbling from within. I mean, I think that's what most people try to do. And
I talk about it if anyone asks or anything, or like, I am not shameful of it. If people are like, hey, I've been to big corporation parties and stuff, and people have asked me, hey, let's get a drink. It's like, oh, I don't drink, and it's like, I don't. And they, I get the look of like, it's like, man, I don't drink. I don't drink. It's all good. Like,
and you'll miss it either.
I'm not, and I'm excited. Like it's been 4 years. I pulled this up today before we jumped on. It's been 4 years, 3 months, 2 weeks, 2 days, and 17 minutes. That was this morning. Yeah. And it wasn't easy. But it's the best thing that I've been, and I've seen my business now go from what I thought was awesome to a whole nother level of, wow, like the sky is the limit for like when your head is clear and the things you want to do.
Talk about that. How do you feel? I don't know a single person personally that's, never mind being an alcoholic and going sober. I don't know a single person that's cut back alcohol significantly and regrets it. How do you feel physically and mentally?
Awesome. I mean, I feel great. I work out. I worked out this morning. I will admit, like, there's some things that I like always. So, like, for instance, snowboarding was something I've always done, and I associate that with alcohol. And it's something like I love snowboarding. It's my passion. But sometimes I feel like I don't want to go do it with my wife and my kid and stuff because my brain, my mind goes back to drinking days. So I've gone back to I've picked up new hobbies that I did when I was a kid. Like I hunted when I was younger. Now I'm super now avid into bow hunting, and I've picked up new things that have no correlation to anything in my past of where alcohol was involved. And I've found I feel like a whole new person. Like I'm creating the version of me that I've always wanted to be. So the working out, just physically, I'm there. Mentally, I'm there.
And it's obviously had a big impact on your business, right? Like I'm sure
Amazing.
you're running way more efficiently. You're not having the slow start to the day or the anxiety, weighing you down.
I'm that guy that's up at 3:30, 4 a.m. every day. I was in the gym at 5 a.m. to 6 almost every day.
And I'm sure now that your son's older, I mean, you got plenty of energy for him.
Yep.
Right.
Yes. And that was another thing too. I kept telling myself, my son's going to get to the age where he's going to see and recognize what's dad drinking all the time. And that always haunted me too when I was drinking, because it's like they're only young for so long before they hit that absorption rate where they know and hear everything that you say and take it all in. So I am very thankful I was able to curb all that before he got old enough to understand what was ever going on. So he basically knows me as a Don, he doesn't even know what he's only 6. He doesn't know what drinking is.
Do you think that he has a future in the tile or construction industry, or is it too early to tell?
I've taken him around job sites before. He thinks it's cool. We'll see. I let him do what he wants, but it can be hard. It's not for the faint of heart.
So what would your advice to him be? What would it be if, whether it's evaluating a career in construction or trying to find the right trade for him, what would your advice be?
Just hard work. I feel very fortunate to be in a position to where I can automatically set him up for success with his hands and his skill set. Now, whether that's the path he wants to use, that will be him. But I want to be a good role model and showing him that he can remember growing up and having a great life because of what his father has done by working with his hands and stuff like that. So who knows? I mean, it might be something he wants to do. I would hope so. But that's
what about late entry? What about somebody who maybe they're in their 30s?
Yep.
And they just found rock bottom? Should they feel like the opportunity to enter the industry has passed them?
No. I've had guys come start out not knowing anything about tile in their 30s, making good money. They're climbing the ranks faster. Their mind's there because I've been in that shoe. I got that late start too. So, and I know a lot of employers and people in the trades where they're very. I don't want to say anything where I'm toot my own horn or anything, but my guys always say how kind and respectful I am of all of them and the things that I do for them. And I think a lot of that has to do with my understanding of knowing how hard everything can be. Where I see on the outside sometimes a lot of employers, the employee is almost just a number, versus like a role model to them. Like I got guys that I would love to shake their hand one day when they decide, hey, I'm going to move on and I'm going to, get my own business going. Because the whole goal is I want to see these guys succeed. Yeah, it's hard to replace great talent, but at the end of the day, who am I to say what you should or should not do? Like, I don't think anybody should cap anyone's ability. Now, granted, we got workers that just want to work and do that. But if someone wants to go out and try on their own, I think that's amazing.
I think you just hit the nail on the head with the. There's a lot of leaders like that in construction, and if you can't find them or you don't have that, I think it's a numbers game. You get out there, you throw yourself out there, throw your resume around, cold call people, walk into somebody's shop, do whatever you got to do. But there's a lot of people out there that exist in the industry, and everyone needs talent. If you have you don't have to know how to do shit. If you have the right attitude, they will find something for you to do and a career for you. So I want to wrap it up. Where do you want people to find you? Where can they find you?
Okay. So my website's millstile.com. My Instagram though, basically Mills at Millstile. Basically stories,
awesome.
Pictures, all that stuff on there. So that's where you can.
Awesome. Go check them out. Whenever I share any of these posts, I'm going to tag them. So make sure you guys look. Adam, I appreciate you coming on again. And I knew this wouldn't be just a half hour. So I
can talk.
I appreciate you coming on again. Everyone, you can find this on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube. Follow it on Instagram, TikTok, and it'll launch on Tuesday morning, but clips to follow. So,
and if anyone wants to, you can let your followers and all that know. If anyone wants to personal message me, if they're battling something themselves, don't hesitate to shoot me a message and reach out, as I get those all the time. So
awesome. Adam, I appreciate it. Thank you.